Hi everyone, Kristen Geist here going over my action research. I decided to focus on teachers' job satisfaction and morale. The reason I chose to do this was just significant changes and turnover that are happening in my own building with my own coworkers, along with what we're seeing at the local, state, and national level, and the impact that the government and everything is having on morale. So I looked a bit into the background of the problem, and I found that teacher retention and turnover is an all-time high. Teachers are leaving the profession earlier in their careers, but there's only so much control that the districts can have because a lot of these things are state and national mandates. Teachers are feeling undervalued. Morale is low. They're often feeling overwhelmed as well. And really, one of the biggest key based on the research I conducted and through the people I surveyed and the resources I looked at, it really comes down to the perceived support from administration and the community. So the purpose of the study and the research questions, as teachers are feeling more and more disheartened by the profession, morale is on the decline, teachers are leaving the profession, and there are ways to control this. Are there ways to control this? What can be done? How can the culture in a building shift to support the community of teachers, thereby making them feel more valued? So I went over what is causing teachers to leave, what makes them possibly want to stay in the position, like what would need to change to stay within the profession in the district. So I sent this out to a variety of people. It was anonymous. I did not include any indicators as to gender, content area, age, things like that. The only indicator I really had was whether or not, how long they had been in the teaching profession. I'll show you the link here in a little bit that takes to my Google document with all the results from the survey questions that I asked. I ended up having 10 participants, which was just a great number considering then the percentages and everything worked out very well. So I started off looking at just how teachers would rate their current job satisfaction, how their morale was, and it was kind of split. 50% of those surveyed fell within the 80 to 90% range, while the other 50 fell into the 40 to 60%. So no one was completely dissatisfied and no one was completely satisfied with their job, with their career here in teaching. So we're not operating in extremes. It just really showed me that a lot of people are kind of in the middle. And I was very surprised when the thing that they said makes them the happiest in their current position is the content, then coworkers, and then students. I always have heard people say things like, I could never leave my students, or my students are everything. And so to see then that they were the third option was very interesting. And then I was looking at the district's impact then on this job satisfaction. Actually said that the district was the number one thing then that made them the least happy about their position. But oddly enough, coworkers were number two. So very much so split. 30% saying they think coworkers are a big part of their job satisfaction, and 22% saying they're a big part of the reason why they don't like it. So I feel like that's kind of interesting, and I would further look into that if I were doing a different type of action research. Overall, the majority of the teaching community enjoys their content, but we are struggling with the role of the district and leadership roles within the building. And within the building, I should address that I am in a portion of Ankeny, and I surveyed grades 6 through 9 on both the north and south feeder systems. So after looking at the current state of job satisfaction and morale, to get some good baseline information, I looked at what the perception was of the district. And one of the big questions I asked was, well, can the school district drive change, even if the state mandate might be like limiting their control? And most people do not feel that the district has the ability to make positive change. However, those that do feel like the district has a responsibility to do that. And there was one respondent who was very set with, they think that the teachers need to be taking care of this, that it's a teacher's job to boost the morality in the building and work with administration to get the morality higher. Things that needed to stop, this was based on some short answer questions, just the perceived lack of support, unrealistic expectations, micromanaging, hourly demands, no pay increase, and the threat of performance-based pay. I actually put a quote on here at the end where it says, the constant hoops we have to jump through on a daily basis. Nonsense that doesn't help our teaching and is obviously created by people justifying their own positions outside the classroom and probably better paid than I. I also really dislike the lack of faith and confidence given teachers, I'm sure that's supposed to say given to teachers by the administration and district, the nickel and diming attitude over paid time off, etc. So it's a lot of things. I feel like it looks for realistic autonomy for teachers and more confidence in what the teachers are choosing to do. And one thing I was interested in too, because we are seeing that fact that the national trend right now is for a lowered enrollment in the number of people enrolling in teaching programs. And a high percentage of current teachers would tell someone not to go into the profession of teaching. And so high that 90%, 9 out of 10 people say that teaching is something to be avoided. And that just to me was kind of mind-blowing, because out of 10 people, 9 people who are currently in the profession, their career path that they have chosen would tell people not to follow their footsteps. And I feel that's a really big point because of the fact that teaching did come from this idea of, you're sharing knowledge, you're preparing students for the real world, all of those things, but yet there doesn't seem to be a vested interest in helping students to continue to steer them towards the career of teaching. Some of the implications that came out of this really did align what current research is saying, that if a teacher leaves the profession, it is often from the lack of perceived support from administration. And that was the biggest area in need identified based on the research within my own personal school district. And having brainstormed and trying to come up with things that could be done, more transparency, more just team building activities, more frequent check-ins by administration focusing on positive classroom practices. Not that kind of gauntlet where, do I have my purpose statement up on the board? Do I have, did they see me doing small group instruction? How was I in my gradual release? But hey, this looks really good. And then really creating a building committee to address supports that they need, to tell administration, I need you to do this. I want to be the best teacher I can be, and I want to feel safe voicing my concerns. They would like to see more respect for the profession by the overall community. That needs improvement. I don't know exactly how we get to that point. Some of the suggestions were more open houses, hosting more events in which you can invite the community into to meet the teachers, doing walkthroughs of lesson plans with parents, like if you were to go through your kid's schedule, what would that look like? Demands on the teachers and just basically in their time needs to be carefully thought out by the district prior to implementing. There often seems to be very good initiatives that we then in turn cannot get done because the implementation process wasn't thought out. Starting to feel like a business that's being ran, and we want to see more of a family environment. The content, coworkers, and students are the main driving cause for staying, and that the trend of teachers who will have below job satisfaction and who leave the profession will continue to increase if changes are not made. This is a problem, and the district does need to address it. Currently, there are over 10 people turning over just within my building, and I'm not sure how many are within the district. And 2 of those people within my own building are leaving the profession of teaching in its entirety. So it's a staggering amount, and it's a problem that needs to be addressed, and it's not going away. And that is what the data trend is showing. And it's also showing that it's on administration and teachers working together to rectify this and to have them step up and make sure that their building, their district, is one that is desirable for employment purposes. And this next slide just allows you to go to a Google form, and on here you can see the questions that I posed and which ones were on a Likert scale and everything. Here is what the responses ended up looking like with the number of years teaching, overall job satisfaction, what makes them happy about the position, what makes them stay in. For questions 5 and 6, 7, I went through and looked for trends like respect, appreciation, better handling of disruptive students, funding, respect. So a lot of things popped up that were trends. Up here it was micromanaged, not feeling valued, not feeling supported, not having support. All of that led to some of my findings, and the information from the district angle. Oddly enough, most people did not necessarily search for a job outside of the district, but that doesn't completely correlate. But here is that big statistic I was talking about earlier, with 90% of those surveyed said that teaching is becoming more and more of a profession to avoid. So there's just a look at the data if you wanted to take a look at the questions in more detail. And then last but not least here are my references. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this. I hope it was informative for you. I feel that I found a lot of information out. It solidified some things I already felt like I knew, and it also gave me a feeling that a lot of people are in this boat, so we can continue to work together, and that we do need to make sure administration is aware of the culture and the climate and the low morale and the job satisfaction, and that if they want to keep these great teachers and they want to encourage people to go into the profession and things like that, that some things will have to change. So, all right, thank you very much.